For nearly 12 years, Melissa Hart worked the morning shift at the diner on Main, a modest eatery on the edge of a small Ohio town. It was the kind of place where everyone knew your name, but not much else about you. The food was greasy, the coffee was endless, and the tips were enough to scrape by. At 33, Melissa's life wasn't glamorous by any stretch. But it was hers. She had a routine she followed every day. Wake up early, clock in, serve pancakes, mop the floors, and then go home to her small, worn-down apartment in the next town over. Nothing extraordinary, but it was enough to keep the bills paid and the loneliness at bay. There was one thing about Melissa that stood out to those who frequented the diner, though, something she did every single day that no one asked her to do. She picked up litter. Every morning, without fail, after unlocking the diner and before she punched in, she'd step outside, lean over the curb, and scoop up whatever trash had accumulated overnight. Old receipts, crumpled soda cans, cigarette butts, plastic wrappers. She would gather it all into a garbage bag and dispose of it. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't her job. But Melissa couldn't stand the thought of leaving the block looking so neglected. Her co-workers would often comment on it. "You really don't have to do that, you know," one of them would say with a chuckle, watching as Melissa carefully folded the corners of a McDonald's wrapper into her bag. "It's not like anyone notices." But Melissa just smiled and kept going. "If I don't do it, who will?" she'd reply, her voice steady and matter-of-fact. The regulars at the diner would sometimes leave a tip or two in her jar, but they rarely made a big deal out of her routine. It was as if everyone had simply accepted that the diner would always be the same, unchanged, untouched, and yet there was something about Melissa's quiet act of service that made it feel just a little more alive. Her life was simple. She didn't have many friends. Her family, aside from her mother who had passed away several years ago, was scattered across the country. She had never married, never had children, never really had the time or energy to dream beyond the walls of the diner. She'd once been in college, on her way to becoming a teacher, but everything changed the day her mother was diagnosed with cancer. Melissa dropped out to care for her. When her mother passed away, she found herself stuck, too far behind in life to chase any career aspirations, too tired from years of caregiving to dream about a different future. So she stayed at the diner. She worked long shifts, earned just enough to make rent, and lived a quiet, unassuming life. But one Tuesday morning, everything changed. It started like any other day. The sky was gray, the air crisp, and the streets were unusually quiet for a weekday. The parking lot in front of the diner had a few cars, but not many. As usual, Melissa arrived an hour before her shift began to clean up the small patch of pavement outside the diner. She noticed a few more wrappers than usual that morning, a few leftover fast food bags and empty bottles near the old phone booth. She bent over and began gathering them into her garbage bag when she heard the hum of an engine approaching. She straightened up, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face, and looked toward the street. A sleek black SUV rolled slowly down Main Street, its tinted windows reflecting the early morning light. The vehicle stopped at the curb right in front of the diner. A man in a sharp suit stepped out. He looked out of place, like a corporate executive who'd taken a wrong turn in a small town. His eyes scanned the diner, then fell on Melissa as she finished collecting the trash. He took a step toward her, and she stood, slightly puzzled, wondering if he was lost. He didn't look like someone who would be interested in the small-town diner. "Excuse me," he said, his voice deep but friendly. "Are you the one who cleans this block every morning?" Melissa hesitated. Was he some kind of environmentalist? Or maybe a local business owner who needed help? She wiped her hands on her apron and nodded slowly. "Yeah, I guess that's me." The man smiled, his eyes warm but calculating. "I've been watching you for the past couple of weeks. You come out here every morning, without fail, and you clean up after everyone. It's rare to see someone with that kind of dedication to something so small, and yet so important." Melissa blinked, unsure of how to respond. She was used to people ignoring the work she did. She was even used to people laughing about it, but not to being watched. The man continued, his voice steady and serious. "My name's Gregory Langford. I'm the CEO of Langford Urban Futures." He handed her a business card, which she took, still unsure of where this conversation was headed. He went on to explain that his company had been looking for individuals who were quietly making a difference in their communities, people who did the hard, thankless work without ever asking for recognition. "And from what I've seen, you are exactly the kind of person we've been looking for," he said. For a moment, Melissa thought he might be joking, or perhaps she had misunderstood him. "I just pick up trash," she said, her voice faltering. "That's all." Gregory smiled. "Exactly. That's what makes it so powerful. Most people walk by the trash without a second thought. Though you do something about it. It's not about the trash. It's about your mindset, the work ethic, the heart." He paused, allowing the weight of his words to sink in. "And we think you're the perfect candidate to lead a new initiative we're launching." Melissa shook her head, still not understanding. "A new initiative?" "Yes. We're starting a nationwide environmental campaign focused on urban cleanups, eco-friendly business practices, and job creation for underprivileged communities. And we want you to lead it." The words felt surreal. She had been working in a diner for over a decade, scraping by on tips and minimal wages. And now this man, this billionaire, was asking her to lead a campaign worth billions? Gregory continued, explaining that Langford Urban Futures had been quietly searching for unsung heroes, people like Melissa, who had never sought attention or fame, but simply did what needed to be done. They offered her a position as the face of the campaign, a national spokesperson for green initiatives. The deal came with a multi-million-dollar signing bonus and a percentage of the equity in the projects, which could eventually be worth over $1 billion. "I don't know what to say," Melissa whispered, stunned. This can't be real. I'm just a waitress who picks up trash." Gregory's smile deepened. "That's exactly why we chose you. You didn't do it for money or recognition. You did it because you believed in making the world a better place, even in the smallest way. And we need that kind of heart at the helm of our initiative." That morning, Melissa's life changed forever. She accepted the offer and within weeks had moved from the diner to a multi-million-dollar office in downtown Chicago. Her role as the spokesperson for Langford Urban Futures took off, and the campaign grew faster than anyone had anticipated. She began traveling the country, speaking at schools, working with local governments to clean up neighborhoods, and even launching programs to provide green jobs to communities in need. She was no longer just a waitress picking up trash. She had become a global ambassador for sustainability. And every single day, no matter where she went, Melissa still picked up litter. She never stopped. It was her way of reminding herself of where she had come from and how far she had come. When asked about her success, she always answered the same way. "Nothing really changed. I just kept doing what I believed in." The world finally noticed. Now, when she looks out across the streets she once cleaned alone, seeing the difference her actions made, she knows it wasn't just the litter that changed. It was her and the world around her. And all because she decided to do something small every day, just because it was the right thing to do.